Why are we never content? Whatever we come to possess, experience or achieve, it only brings us fleeting satisfaction and then leaves us with a hunger for more. Is it even possible to find peace and happiness that last? Over 2 millennia ago, the Buddha confronted these same questions, and this led him to one of his deepest and most counterintuitive insights. That the very thing we're all doing to find happiness is what keeps it from us. Welcome to Seeker to Seeker, my friend. My name is Simeon, I have an MA in Buddhist studies, and I've spent the last 6 years producing videos, essays and podcasts on the world's wisdom traditions. Today we will be looking at one of the deepest and most misunderstood teachings of the Buddha. It's an insight that's truly changed the way I live, and I hope you find it equally meaningful. Anxiety, regret, disappointment, the knowing feeling that something about our life is not quite as good as it can be. We humans have always had reasons to be dissatisfied, but probably never as many as we have today. We are, after all, living in the age of endless opportunity, which also means endless missed opportunities. For every choice we've made, we know there are a million others we could have made that might just have turned out better. The fact that no achievement, experience or possession grants us lasting contentment seems to confirm our suspicion, as does social media, constantly feeding us airbrushed images of perfect lives and ads for the next purchase that will solve all of our problems. We thus keep one another on the hamster wheel, never arriving at the life we are craving, but ever departing from the life we are actually living, here and now. This restless searching and discontent is not a modern malaise. Millennia ago, the Buddha diagnosed it as the universal affliction of human beings. In Pali, the language of early Buddhism, it is called Dukkha. Dukkha is a notoriously difficult word to translate. It covers a whole range of meanings. Dissatisfaction, stress, and suffering are different shades of it. But by dukkha, the Buddha does not mean any particular experience. He means the fact that every experience, sooner or later, brings us discontent. Painful experiences bring discontent because, well, we would rather not feel pain. Pleasurable experiences bring discontent because they never last and only leave us wanting more. Even neutral experiences bring discontent, as their unstable coming and going keep us always on our toes, chasing fleeting peace and satisfaction in an unpredictable world. This teaching can seem like a bleak view on life, like a form of pessimism or nihilism. But if we consider the teaching within the teaching, as it were, we actually find the key to that peace and happiness we're all craving. Think for a moment what it would mean to live as if nothing can bring you contentment. What would it be like to live your life exactly as you are already living it, with the only difference that you're not seeking happiness in any achievement, possession, or experience of whatever kind? It's easy to confuse the Buddha's teaching with New Age slogans such as peace comes from within or the like. Owning a Porsche might not be the key to happiness, but then maybe a meditation retreat will do the job, or some life-changing psychedelic experience. You see, the Buddha's teaching goes deeper than merely internalizing our quest for contentment. In the original suttas, he does recognize the bliss of deep meditation as superior to sensual pleasure. But even such transcendent experiences, the Buddha says, bring discontent. Why? For the simple reason that they never last. It is irrelevant what we are pursuing in our quest for happiness, the Buddha says, be it a material or a spiritual thing. Our mistake is not that we are trying to get contentment from the wrong things. Our mistake is that we are trying to get contentment. We are like a man looking for his sight. He will wear himself out, searching the whole world, and never once even glimpse it. If some well-intentioned guru tells him to look for his sight within, the man will only get more confused. The heart of the Buddha's message is that the very search for contentment is bringing us discontent. The search itself creates the lack it is trying to rectify. And the Buddha did not just talk about this, he exemplified it in his life. Think of all the things you derive pleasure, joy, or satisfaction from in your life. These may include your relationships, your work, your home, money, sex, food, etc. Now imagine losing each and every one of these things. Imagine living penniless, stripped of all social status, owning only one set of clothes, living on whatever food strangers have to spare, and avoiding all sensual pleasures. For most, if not all of us, this is a worst-case scenario. It is a life deprived of all our familiar sources of pleasure and satisfaction. But that's exactly the kind of life the Buddha chose for himself and his most devoted followers. In the early suttas we read, "Just as a bird, wherever it goes, flies with its wings as its only burden, so too is the monk content with a set of robes to provide for his body, and alms food to provide for his hunger. Wherever he goes, he takes only his barest necessities along. This is how a monk is content." For the Buddha, monastic life is not about deprivation or punishing ascetic practices. It is a life devoted to freedom, and a happy life. It is staggering that most people's worst-case scenario is actually the kind of life the Buddha embraced as most conducive to contentment. And we know as a historical fact that the richest and most powerful people of his time would visit his cell to seek guidance on how to live happier lives. Even just thinking about this can release some of our anxiety about not achieving or owning the right things. You don't need more than a set of clothes and some food to be happy, the Buddha says. And in fact, he goes further. You don't need anything at all. I'll pause here for a brief intermission. If you're enjoying the topics we cover on the channel, I would like to invite you to join our community as a channel patron or member. The community is a space to connect with other seekers, exchange insights, and find support for the challenges we face on the path. I've personally had some of my most meaningful online interactions in our group calls, and I would love for you to join us if you're able. If you want to learn more, you can check out the links in the description, and thank you so much for your support. Now, let's move on to the deepest part of our discussion. Let's briefly look at Nirvana, or Nibbana in Pali. Nibbana is famously known as the goal of Buddhism, the end of all discontent. But the popular understanding of it as some great achievement, event, or experience is not what the Buddha had in mind. Here is how he speaks about Nibbana. There is, monks, an unborn, unbecome, unmade, unfabricated. Precisely because that exists, escape from the born, become, made, fabricated. is possible. I know this may sound way too mystical and abstract at first, but allow me to elaborate. The Buddha is making one of his most important points here. Nibbana is essentially what we are all craving: complete peace and happiness. Now, what could the Buddha mean by calling this unborn and unfabricated? In our everyday language, the Buddha means that true peace and happiness cannot be produced, gained, or achieved. The things we produce, gain, or achieve, whether a Porsche or spiritual ecstasy, these come and go. And no matter how pleasurable or profound they feel, they always leave us with the aftertaste of discontent and further craving. Nibbana is contentment that neither comes nor goes, but always is. I understand this may seem removed from our everyday experience, but it is not only monks and scholars who can benefit from the Buddha's deeper teachings. Living as a monk, practicing meditation, and studying the suttas can greatly help one realize Nibbana, but they are not necessary for it. And that's the whole point. Nothing is necessary for Nibbana. There is nothing you need to do, no place you need to visit, no experience you need to have, no item, knowledge, or teacher you need to be content. The reason why the Buddha recommends letting go of attachments is not that deprivation produces happiness. Nothing produces true happiness, as he clarifies. Nibbana is unfabricated. Rather, as we learn to no longer seek contentment through external or internal sources, we begin to recognize the unborn, ever-present contentment inherent in being. We don't achieve Nibbana, we realize it. I don't think the only way to embody this insight is to retreat from the world and become a monk or a nun. I think we can realistically retain most of our interests, goals, plans, and activities, with the only difference that we are no longer milking them for fleeting pleasure or some imagined satisfaction. We can continue doing what is necessary and what brings us joy, only we no longer burden it with the expectation that it will sate our thirst for peace and happiness. We recognize nothing will sate that thirst, as the only reason this thirst exists is that we are failing to recognize that which is already and always present. Of course, discovering the truth of this insight is not as simple as watching this video or reading a few suttas. An intellectual conclusion lacks the power to truly change our deeper patterns of thinking and behavior. The Buddha knew this, and that is why he was not a philosopher. He acted more as a physician, and he prescribed a holistic approach to liberation, with guidance on the way we speak, act, work, meditate, and more. He called this approach the Noble Eightfold Path, and it is his practical guide to Nibbana. So here is the paradox of the matter. There is nothing we need to do to be happy, but there are all these ways in which we are actively making ourselves unhappy that we need to learn to relinquish. Even though Nibbana is not some distant destination, there is a path that leads to it. That path, however, does not consist of accumulating, but of releasing. Not of making something happen, but of recognizing that which already is. I invite you to watch my video on the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path next, where we explore it with the help of one of the most powerful suttas. As always, thank you for watching, and remember, what you seek is seeking you. See you next time.